A phase is called a phase because it is just that. It ends. And this is not ending. This is just getting stronger.
So how could it end? You started it at 2. The child's entire identity has been constructed around this thing now, right? That's what people don't really understand, that even the social transitioning of these extremely young children is very toxic because you are constructing an identity around it at that point rather than letting that child develop an identity without a reconstruction, right?
So, all right, guys, we've come to the second part of this video with Blaire White discussing Jazz's situation. Upon watching it some more, Blaire does bring up a couple points that I actually didn't think about in a certain way. So it's pretty good to look at this from a different lens. So why don't we go ahead and get into this? And if you guys been liking the video so far about, just the ins and outs of this part of Munchausen by proxy, victims from Munchausen by proxy, what's happened to Jazz, the identity, all of it, this basically this female psychological lens of life that we've apparently been going through on this channel. And there's way more to come. Go ahead and hit the like button for me.
Lots happened in between, but now we're at 17. Time to get that sex change. We've been filming you. You're on season 8 of your reality show. It's time to get that sex change. We need that season finale. Jazz. Jazz's mom, Jazz's dad. Ratings are getting low. Gotta cut that off now, right? I'm really not trying to be funny. I know I talk sometimes a crazy way, but that's really what it is. They're filming her sex change in this scene, but it's botched.
Taking Jazz on as a patient for surgery, we knew it was going to be a one-of-a-kind surgery. I was just not expecting her to have a complication as severe as what she did have.
Jazz has had a very difficult surgical course. There were problems, and that prompted a second surgery.
The shining example of a childhood transition sex story has to have multiple surgeries to get it right because she's been botched. And if you know why she's botched, this is the reason. So to create a neo-vagina, to create a male to female sex change surgery, you have to have enough to start with to create that canal, right? Very graphic here, but stick with me. Basically, the length of your genitals, your penis, when you start, equals the length of the depth. So when you don't go through puberty because you were on blockers at 11, you don't develop anything down there.
So Blaire's right. The identity definitely was constructed for Jazz. This we know. A child does not walk up to their mother and say, at the age of 2, that they want to get their genitalia changed. That does not happen. Okay, so we've never heard no such case. And I never even thought about it like that as far as this surgery being the next step, because that would be the next step for the next seasons. It's like, oh, let's get the ratings up. Okay. She's just about old enough. So why don't we go ahead and get that surgery, right? So why don't we go ahead and cut his member off? It's the next step, because again, Jazz is the poster child for why children should do this. So of course, the full Monty has to happen. This is probably in the contract. Come to think of it, they probably, when they signed on again, in the middle of these seasons, renewed their contract, they probably put in there like, oh, Jazz has to get the surgery. Like for a show, this was not Jazz's choice. Again, the life has been constructed. So Blaire is making sense here because, and when Blaire talks about the surgery, Blaire never had it done. And Blaire's very honest about that because there's a lot that goes into that. Once you chop that off, there's many people who say they're not the same person again. So a lot of people don't go with that last step. If I'm not mistaken, Caitlyn Jenner, you guys let me know if I'm right or not, Bruce, I don't think he's ever had that done either.
So Chris poses the question of Jazz being asexual. If anybody knows they're asexual, Jazz would know that about herself.
Right. She's always known everything about herself, right? That self-awareness isn't present at 2, and she's been believed ever since 2. This is a sick bitch. Now you gotta monetize her complete lack of sex drive that you caused. Wow. pig in a wig.
You're not asexual.
I'm definitely not asexual. I don't love kissing just because
But that,
I do like to kiss when the bond is there, right? I have that emotional connection.
So you're not asexual, but you can only bond with people emotionally, not sexually. You don't want to kiss, but you're not asexual. So again, don't anyone dare twist this into me attacking Jazz, because I'm not. I do have to let you know though, Jazz, and this is coming from a loving place, and my tone of voice, I will calm it down, is angry because I'm angry about what happened to you. Normal sexuality, right? People with a normal functioning sex drive, even a low sex drive, they want to kiss, sometimes even without an emotional bond, right? In fact, it happens a lot. And you're at that age where you should be wanting to do that, right? So I know you said in one breath that you're not asexual, but you also said in that same breath that you don't have any desire for anything physical unless there's an emotional connection. Which means at the very best, you have an extremely low sex drive, but in the probable reality, you have zero, right? And that's what your parents did to you, baby. They did it to you.
This is actually helping me to understand what asexual finally means, right? So they've tried to normalize all these different kind of sexuals. Bisexual, asexual, pansexual, transsexual, metasexual, trisexual. I mean, you see what I'm saying, right? We just make up the, like a lot of it, like, of course, we've heard of bisexual before, right? But like a lot of it, though, I feel like they just furry sexual, we just add this stuff on. But with asexual, people would explain it like, well, you just don't have those kind of physical feelings for anybody, or it could just go for it can go for anybody, but you just don't have those physical feelings. And I never could understand it, because to me, I'm like, it's just not normal. Like, then you're bisexual to me. Like, that's how I used to think of it. Like, if you're not choosing who you have those feelings for, then that means you're having those feelings for both sexes. Therefore, you would always be bisexual, like, because you shouldn't be having feelings for a dog or a parrot, right? So that was my understanding of it. But now I get it, because it's not normal. People should not have an instance where they straight up don't have a physical, like a hormonal reaction, whether it be male or female, but some sort of drive and arousal for whatever their eye catches. All of these things work together, these hormones, these enzymes, right? Jazz is literally saying, like, I don't feel like kissing people because I'm not emotionally connected to that person, meaning that Jazz would have to force itself to kiss someone. When they stop the puberty, they really stop everything. I just never really thought about this. They really stop everything. The arousal, that's important. Think about it too. Jazz is somewhere 21, 22 saying, I really don't want to kiss. And of course, the show is going to make all of this sound normal. The show is going to make it sound like, oh, she just doesn't want to kiss people, right? But the thing is, it's more than that. There's no arousal. There's no tingly feeling, There's none of that. And at that age, let's be honest, that's the time where you're mostly physical. I mean, like where you're actually trying to learn how to not be physical.
But I can't get out of my head. I know. No, listen. It just doesn't stop. It's okay. Give me a hug. It's okay. I know what you're going to. I've been there. No, it still doesn't stop now. And I'm already going back to it. But the more you're talking about yourself, it gets harder. So this is hard for you. I know. And we don't want, I'm the one doing it. Like, I know you're your own worst enemy.
This is really bad. Like, to watch this, what's up is the mother just told this baby, you're your own worst enemy. And to anyone with any discernment, right? The mother is the child's worst enemy. Sorry, I don't hate and cry. Ugh. Crying on YouTube, nightmare. But what I'm watching is like really sad.
I really want to understand myself and be able to read my own soul and what I want. I just want to feel like myself. Like, that's it. I don't care. All I want is to be happy and feel like me, and I don't feel like me ever.
The entire storyline of your life on this show has been about how you knew your soul at 2. And here you are at what, 2021? And you don't have it figured out. So how did you have it figured out at 2, baby? Right? And how do you look at your parents? I can't look at your parents seriously, that they took you seriously at 2, right? Because you're here as an adult, not knowing where you're going and what's going on, saying, I can't get out of my head, I want to feel like me and never feel like me. Wasn't the whole purpose of I Am Jazz? How that's you?
Anybody looking at this should not think that it's normal. This child is telling you that they never feel like their self. And Blaire makes a good point. This whole show is called like I Am Jazz. Janetta tell you all the time, we follow Jazz all the time, and whatever Jazz says goes, because Jazz knows what she wants and this, that, and the third. But then when you hear Jazz is like, yo, I don't even know who I am. Right? So this scene comes up many times, during other people, like, reacting to Jazz's situation, because it is a very telling scene. There's a lot that had to go into getting this person back on an even keel. Again, we always talk about the meds. We always talk about the hormones. There's got to be definitely a good cocktail going to keep this person at a baseline value. But that is a very good point. And even to go again back to this asexual thing, think about it, y'all. You have to ask yourself, what is the agenda, right? Because we know, right? Like, if you're here watching this episode, you are a person who asks questions. Even if you're annoyed with what I'm saying, I'm pretty sure you're a person who asks questions. I'm pretty sure you're a person who looks into things at least one level further than the regular normie who's not paying attention, right? So if there's an agenda, this person has been puberty blocked and drugged up to the point where they can't get that tingly feeling. A tingly feeling that is so natural that the Bible, which is like the oldest book, speaks on controlling that tingly feeling in many ways. You know what I mean? Like, this is why, like, this is almost a human dilemma, right? It doesn't have to be looked at so dark and negative, but it's just the fact that the Bible needs to instruct you, like, yo, don't lust, okay? You're going to destroy yourself. You're going to answer to the flesh, so just stay focused, basically, right? But so that is normal to have that confusion or the intensity of wanting to be physical. These are all dilemmas that are talked about in the Bible. So that means that this is a natural thing that humans go through. Okay, this isn't bizarre and outside of the makings of a human. Jazz doesn't have to go through that dilemma. So is this what they want for people? Is this what they want to make a bunch of children that they groom into adults who don't even get a tingly feeling, don't even get excited about a crush and kissing that crush, and feeling this, like, this feeling, this sparkle inside, and, you're like excited by it. And sometimes it could even motivate you to do something good. This person doesn't get a chance to feel that. And that is a crime to humanity. There's just no other way around it. Wow. Very enlightening and very sad. I'll see you guys at the next video. Bye.